Today we're joined by our panelists to understand what has to be done post-recovery of COVID. It's a special broadcast. Your questions are here. We're going to ask them to our panelists. Let me quickly introduce our panelists. A very good evening. Dr. Nandita Palshetkar joining us. She's President of the Federation of Obstetricians and Gynecological Societies of India. She's joining us live from Mumbai. I'm joined by Dr. Himanshu Gupta, orthopedic surgeon from the capital. Dr. Anil Bhoraskar, diabetologist from Asian Heart Institute, Rahija Hospital and Asian Cancer Hospital. Also, he's the Honorable Secretary of Diabetic Association of India. I welcome all our guests on the show, and this is a question several people, viewers and doctors are asking us: for how long does the weakness remain post-COVID recovery? What are the reports of post-COVID clotting? What are they supposed to be doing? Let me go across to Dr. Nandita Palshetkar. Dr. Palshetkar, the one question that people want to understand: how long will the weakness remain once they have recovered after COVID?
So generally what I'm treating is pregnant women and what we notice is at least 15 days to a month after recovering from COVID. So if it is a mild infection, they recover within 15-20 days. But if it's a severe infection, it takes more than a month to recover from the weakness. And the other problems like, you have to be careful once you've come back after from COVID negative report to from the hospital. There's something called a post-viral illness where you can have symptoms like rashes or breathing problems. And I always tell my patients that they must monitor their O2 levels, with the pulse oximeter, because if they reduce, then we have to give them help. But otherwise, they maintain their diet, they maintain a healthy, healthy diet, take a lot of rest, so that really helps them.
Absolutely, that's valid. Have a healthy diet, maintain and take rest after post-COVID recovery is important. Dr. Himanshu Gupta, I also want to ask you, there are reports of post-COVID clotting. How should patients be dealing with that, sir?
So, adding on to the point which the previous panelists just talked about in terms of the weakness, what happens in most cases is that patients, while they are hospitalized or in the ICU care, they are on long-acting steroids. When you are on long-acting steroids, you are on strong and high-dose steroids. That leads to a lot of problems in terms of bone weaknesses, myalgias, fatigues, and because of being lying in the ICU bed or on a rest, because their lung capacity has decreased significantly, they tend to have this significant fatigue and weakness even after they have healed up well. So even walking a few hundred meters inside the house, walking to the washroom is absolutely tiresome for few patients. As far as the clotting thing is concerned, the basic thing is, in most of the asymptomatic or the mild cases that we are talking about, 90% cases, if they are active during the period of illness or when they were at home and they are pretty active, moving around the house, they are doing their ankle toe exercises, some amount of joint mobilizations, chances of clot formation are usually not that high. But yes, people who are on the moderate to the severe category or the critical category, who have been in ICU care for long durations, they have been on injectable as well as oral blood thinners and anticoagulants to decrease the chances of these clottings and deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, and strokes, which can happen at a later date. Most of our knowledge about COVID and post-COVID is very recent. It's just about, the world knows about it only for the last 16 months. So in most cases, it has been seen that when they are on good prophylaxis with anticoagulants and they are active, exercising well, and as soon as they recover or as soon as their body allows them to, and they have become active around, the chances of clotting have significantly decreased as the time post-COVID recovery has increased.
Okay, that's good advice, sir, and that's keeping their fingers crossed and very positive. Dr. Nandita Palshetkar, I also want to ask you, what are the psychological consequences of isolation for the elderly?
I think that is something really major. because I have seen a lot of people who are gone into depression. A lot of our colleagues, when we come on Zoom platform and we give talks and all, two, three of my colleagues have actually called me up and told me, Dr. Nandita, it felt so good. We thought you had come to my house. And, we are so isolated because we are elderly, we cannot go out. And these people are not even those people who have had any COVID or anything. So can you imagine this effect is on the people who are not suffering from the disease. So those people who are suffering from the disease, they do not even come in contact with anybody giving them food or anything because they're completely isolated. People are scared of them. So I think what we need to sensitize people is that the disease, the person is not infective 10 days after the cessation of symptom or maximum 14 days. After that, please treat the person well. I mean, you can go to near them, give them food, you can be with them. And I think the use of technology today, doing video calls, etc., with all the elderly persons is very, very important. I hope that we can educate them and help them to use this technology. And it has caused a lot of mental trauma. And in America, all the older patients are on antidepressants. In India, it's not so common, but I think it is required, very much required, and we are using the help of our psychiatrist friends and psychotherapists a lot in this pandemic, where we can help these people to achieve better mental frame.
Yes, very crucial, and this is something that I wish was also being done in India. Dr. Himanshu Gupta, I also want to come to you, ask you, what are the long-term side effects of having COVID medication?
So, as in total, what you're talking about, COVID medications, there are no actual medications. All of these therapies that are given at the time of active COVID are either vitamins, supplements, or they are basically some particular antivirals which are given for short duration. So it is only and only the effects of the large dose steroids and the longer acting steroids which are given to patients who are suffering from moderate to severe illness, which leads to side effects which are related usually to steroids, like bone weakness, like propensity to having diabetes, having muscle pains, myalgias, joint pain, synovitis, and different effects of steroid use, which also leads to weight gain and hypertension in many cases. So at the end of the day, I mean, major effects are because of the effect of steroid, which is given during that time in active COVID. And also some patients who are on blood thinner therapy while they're in the ICUs, they have reported cases with increased tendency of bleeding and ecchymosis and clot and bleeding tendencies. So that's something which has been seen with these medications which are used for treating COVID.
Crucial. We'll also look at that, sir. I want to go across to Dr. Anil Bhoraskar. Dr. Bhoraskar, I wanted to ask you, when we talk about COVID, post-COVID recovery, what are the do's, the don'ts post-COVID, especially on a physical front, that people who've had it need to follow, sir?
Now, first thing you should remember that after the infectivity of a patient is over, very rightly pointed out by Nandita, that you have to start treating them not like an achut. This is a big problem, that because you had a COVID, people are ostracized, which is not correct. We have to change our mindset. Second thing, you have to lay down a standard nutritional program. Please remember that nutrition is a very important form of therapy, at least in diabetes. And the nutritional factors, there are a lot of do's and don'ts which are preformed ideas of the patient and his family. Ye nahi khao, this is not allowed, rice is not allowed, potato not allowed. So the list of negative items is a lot more. My principle is to feed the patient with a normal food. He doesn't need any special nutritional supplements, number one. Your dal, chawal, roti, sabji, milk, and sprouts give you adequate nutrition. And for our diet, which is written by our forefathers, they are very wise people. Right amount of antioxidants are there in our diet, like haldi, ilaichi, then hing, dalchini. These are all important antioxidants. They should be introduced in the diet. Then all kinds of dals. And please remember the general mindset against milk, which is not right. Milk is a very important source of protein. About fruits, I allow my patient to eat one full mango, even if he's a diabetic. A mango is created. I always tell people, Ishwar nirmit sagya goshti kha, Manushya nirmit goshti khao naga, I mean chocolate, mithai and all that. But mango is loaded with nutrients. And you will realize if you cut down the number of mangoes, you don't have to finish 5-6 mangoes in a day. One mango in the evening is absolutely important because it gives you vitamin A, vitamin C, beta carotenes, and it takes away all the important requirement of a nutrition, particularly in a diabetic patient. Now, there is another problem which I have to tell you, that a lot of people, when they are discharged from the hospital and after the steroids are withdrawn, they are initially put on insulin, they stop the insulin. Now, that is not right. I feel even if the patient is discharged and he was found to be a diabetic during the stay in the hospital or found to be diabetic during COVID, because COVID is a diabetogenic factor and it causes pancreatitis. So for quite some time, if you give them small doses of insulin, either pre-lunch or a long-acting insulin for a day, which will take care of his nutrition. And remember one thing, insulin is one anabolic hormone. It gets a positive muscle gain. The people who have lost, the people who come through the COVID, they look emaciated. Their muscle mass is reduced. And that is what, if you have to get back, and if you want to give a additional exercise pattern, patient must get good nutrition. And that nutrition, to get back into the muscle, you need small dose of insulin. All my patients who come to me post-COVID, I convince them to go on very small doses of insulin. I'm not saying the drugs are bad. The drugs are useful. But a small dose of insulin, till the patient's glycosylated hemoglobin comes to less than 7.5, we continue insulin. So that is what I like to insist on my patients.
Crucial. Yes. Yes, very important, Dr. Bhoraskar. People need to take into care, and I like the fact that you've said it's very important to eat what we're eating in the house, especially mangoes and all. I also I want to ask Dr. Himanshu Gupta. Dr. Gupta, is there any post-COVID pneumonia? What is the lung care one should take, and is there any therapy exercise suggested as post-COVID recovery?
Usually, when the patients are at home or in the ICUs, we initially start with exercises with the incentive respirometer, where the lungs capacity is expanded. You try and give them balloons, you give them balls to sort of lift them air to support with their lung capacity. As they recover back, they are able to walk a little bit. They should be doing some deep breathing exercises. Anulom Vilom is something which is recommended even during COVID. And once they have recovered well, they should start off with gentle walks and gradually get up into using stair climbing exercises in terms of getting some cardiorespiratory reserve, then increasing the speed of your walks to a little bit of a brisker walk. Gradually start toning off your muscles, because you've been in the bed, in the ICU, or on the rest for a few weeks. You will get a lot of flaccid muscles. So try and start doing exercises with light weights, a little bit of toning for all over the body. And most importantly, try and do some back strengthening and extension exercises. That's something because most of the patients have been in the bed or resting, because of which the lower back becomes stiff. It becomes weak over the period of time, having been rested for that long. And we look at strengthening that part of the body as well. So it is a generalized treatment wherein the patient has to do the cardiac part, the exercises and strengthening and the nutritional part, as Dr. Puraskar just very clearly mentioned.
Yes, Dr. Palshekar, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Puraskar, very crucial. We need to remember, have a good diet. Even post-COVID, do not think that person needs to be ostracized. This is an illness that also, ironically, one has to be isolated in, but is bringing everyone together. It's very important to stay safe, stay strong. We thank our doctors for being with us and also being the frontline warriors. Without our doctors, their continuous guidance and support here, we really don't know where we would go. So I thank all of you for being here. Thank you, viewers, for joining us on this 6 p.m. special broadcast.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.